negotiating the biggest deals. When China negotiates, they have waves of people, all the smartest people. They put their smartest people, negotiate with the United States, drain them of their money, drain them of their jobs, bring the jobs back to China. And I'm not knocking China. I think China's great. But again, they're too smart. I want our leaders to be the same way. I want our leaders to do that. So we're not knocking them. You know, the anger of all of us is not with China and it's not with Mexico. The anger is with our leaders because we have people that don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clue. Look at the Iran deal where we pay $150 billion for the worst deal I've ever seen in my life. We pay $150 billion. We get nothing. Those prisoners should have been back years ago. We should have gone in. Okay, here's Trump, right? Let's say I took over that deal. First of all, and it's for you. Do you ever see a deal took so long? So let's say 3 or 4 years ago, I go and I say, fellas, before we start negotiating, you have to let the prisoners go. Got to let them go. You don't want them. We do want them. It'll make it easier for us to make a deal. You got to let them go. Now, the Persians are great negotiators. They really are. All through history, the Persian negotiators have been great. I say, you got to let them go. They'll say no. And you know what you do? You stand up. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody. Enjoy your stay. See you soon. And you leave. And you leave. Then you go out and you double up the sanctions. You now double up the sanctions. You choke them with the sanctions, right? And within 24 hours, you're going to get a call. You've got the prisoners. Come on back. Please negotiate. When the prisoners land, they're on our soil. I would hit them with the second point. You know the $150 billion, fellas? We don't have it. We owe $19 trillion. We can't give you the $150 billion. We love you. We love you. We think you're the greatest in the world. We really want to help you, but we cannot give you. I see, my father told me that. I learned from my father. He used to say, you're too rough. You're too tough. You don't have to be that tough. He'd probably like me to be a little bit softer in the debates. Actually, I'm thinking about maybe we'll be a little bit softer on little Marco. Little Marco. No? But that means you disagree with my father. That's no good. We can't do that. But my father used to have a thing. He'd say, Donald, darling, he loved me. He really loved me. He'd say, Donald, take the lumps out. Take the lumps out. Be softer. Just don't tell him no. Just soft. So here's what my father would say. Fellas, we're bust. We have no money. We owe $19 trillion. We want to give you the money, but we don't have it. So we're not going to be able to give you the $150 billion, okay? Now, I understand my father, because that way, you know, they'll get angry, but not as angry. See, here's what I would have used to said if I didn't have a good teacher, my father. I would have said, we're not giving you the $150 billion. And they'd be so furious it would take them a while to recover. This way we say, fellas, we don't have it. We owe 19 trillion. We owe 1.7 trillion to China. We owe 1.5 trillion to Japan. How do you like that? They come in, they sell their cars. We owe them money. I mean, think of it. They sell us cars. They take over our businesses, and we owe them money. The whole thing is so crazy. It's going to change, folks. It's going to change. It's going to change. So what would happen in the Iran deal is then now we have our prisoners back. Now after a few days, they'll get used to the fact that they're not getting their $150 billion, because you would have done two walks. You would have walked on the prisoners, and you would have walked when they got angry about the $150 billion. But again, you go back, and now you negotiate a deal, okay? Now you know, because on nuclear, it's a good thing to negotiate a deal. But we'll make a much better deal than they make, because that deal is horrible. We lost every single point. Like Sergeant Bergdahl. We have a spy. We have a traitor. He's a traitor. He's a terrible traitor. He left. He was all into their life. I don't think he likes their life so much anymore. They treated him pretty rough. I'd like to take that guy. I'd like to fly him over, drop him right back where he came from, I'll tell you. But think of it, Bergdahl. So we knew he was a traitor. We lost 5 and maybe 6 people got killed. Young, beautiful soldiers got killed looking for him, right? We had a general and a colonel interviewing the people he worked with. They knew he was a traitor. So, you know, it's one thing like we didn't know, which is bad if we didn't know, but you can understand that. But we knew he was a traitor when we were negotiating. So we get Bergdahl, a dirty, rotten traitor, right? And they get 5 of the people they most coveted. They get 5 of these killers who will soon be back on the battlefield, already are, some of them, trying to kill everybody, including us, right? This is the way we negotiate. Not going to happen anymore. Not going to happen. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. Those days are gone. So I just want to tell you that so many changes are going to be made. We're going to be like the smart country, not the stupid country. Because right now people look at us, we're like the big bully that gets beat to hell all the time. And we're not going to let that go. So what we're going to do, and I'll tell you just briefly, because I know you're hot as hell in this room. By the way, this room does not have lots of air conditioning. Do we agree? Well, it wasn't even built for this crowd. You know, this room was built for what? Basketball. Yeah, nice little basketball, but it wasn't built. This is your all-time record crowd in the history of this room, and it'll never be broken. It'll never be broken. But we're going to do a lot of things. Number one, we're going to absolutely terminate and replace Obamacare. It's going to be done. It's a disaster. You're having increases of 25, 35, 45%, and you don't get coverage like you were supposed to get, and you don't have your doctor, by the way, and you don't have your plan. You were lied to. It's going to be terminated, and it's going to be replaced with something that's going to be terrific and a lot less expensive and much better coverage, okay? We're going to get rid of Common Core. We're going to educate your kids locally. We are going to educate your children locally. He just screamed, "Where have you been?" Right? Where's the guy? There's my guy with that beautiful beard. Look at that beard. So where have you been is right. Where have you been? You know, it's almost like it's such common sense. Somebody said, Donald Trump is a conservative, but he's not conservative on certain things. I am a conservative, but it's called common sense conservative. As an example, if China is charging our companies tax and making it impossible for you people to sell your goods, and you have great manufacturers here in China, and yet they sell their goods in from China to here with no tax, no prohibitions, just dump your stuff on us. What good does that do? And that's why we're losing $505 billion, okay? So we have to call it, we want smart trade. I'm a free trader. If everyone would free trade, that's a different story. I'm okay with it. But it's not free trade. It's not free trade when they don't have to pay tax, right? And we have to pay tax to get our goods in. It's not free trade when, in order to buy planes from Boeing, Boeing has to build massive plants over in China to build planes. And you know what they're going to do? Those plants will be built, and then China will devalue its currency. They're the greatest. They're like grandmaster chess players. And all of a sudden, Seattle, South Carolina, and I love South Carolina because they gave me such an incredible victory 2-3 weeks ago. They gave me, and we're going to protect them. And I've been telling them, you have those nice new Boeing plants, but they're building bigger plants over in China. And when those plants are built, and then they say, listen, we're going to devalue, and then all of a sudden, South Carolina and Seattle aren't building planes anymore. You're going to see. But that's not going to happen if I'm president. I can tell you right now. I can tell you right now. So we need smart trade. I don't even call it fair trade anymore. I call it smart trade. We need smart trade. We can't have dumb trade. We have dumb trade right now. It's called free market. I'm for a free market, but the markets aren't free. If you look at what's going on with devaluations in Japan, it's unbelievable what they're doing. Devaluation. You look at Komatsu tractors compared to Caterpillar tractors. Caterpillar is having a very hard time because they devalue the yen to such an extent that it's very hard for Caterpillar to compete with some of these companies, in particular a company called Komatsu. Then you see Carrier move to Mexico. You saw that 3 weeks ago, right? It was all over because somebody had their cell phone on. These cell phones are wonderful sometimes, right? But these cell phones are wonderful, but they showed the devastation of 1,400 people that just lost their jobs. And I'll tell you what, you may not call it free trade, but if I'm president, I'm going to call up the head of carrier. And I know it's not presidential to do, but I don't need all of these great guys that I will have negotiate because it's too easy. It's just too easy. It's very unpresidential. President Trump calling for the head of carrier air conditioner. And I would say Romney doesn't know. Romney, this poor guy, he is so confused. Here's a guy, by the way, thank you for mentioning that. Here's a guy, Mitt Romney doesn't have a clue. This poor guy, I watched him yesterday, and the internet is exploding. What's he doing? He's making a fool out of himself. I watched him yesterday, and it was sad. By the way, I have a huge business. They only want to talk about little things, you know. And many of the things that he mentioned, they're still going. He talked about water. He talked about different things. I have it. It's all over the place. But I'll tell you what, I watched Mitt Romney yesterday, and this is the problem with the Republican Party. He choked. He should have won the election, should have won it easily. He was running against a failed president. That was an election, and I backed him. I gave him money. I did everything for him. Very loyal guy. I backed him, and he lost. He lost, and he lost big. He didn't lose close. He lost big. He didn't inspire people. They stayed home. If people would have gotten out to vote. Now, since I've been involved, I don't know if you've been seeing, the biggest story in all of politics is what's happening to the Republican Party, and I'm getting zero credit for it. And I should get all, because they're not coming in for little Marco, that I can tell you. Millions of people are coming to vote. Millions and millions of people are coming to vote for the Republicans and joining the Republican Party because of me. Because of me. And if I ever left, they would go away as fast as I would, they would go away. Because they want common sense, they want intelligence, they don't want this stupidity that they've seen for the last long period of time. And the biggest story in all of politics, one of the biggest stories, period, is on the cover of Time magazine this week. You know, I've been on the cover of Time magazine so many times in the last 3-4 months. It's like almost like, am I on the cover of Time this week? The biggest story and the best story I've almost ever had, 3 or 4 weeks ago, the cover of Time magazine wrote a story about us, all of us together. It's a movement. It's a movement. And they described it so beautifully. The writer was amazing. They described it so beautifully, so incredibly. And I'm on the cover this week. Actually, it's the same writer, and it's a good story. But the one that really hit the pay dirt was the one from 3 or 4 weeks ago, because they were describing a movement that is so incredible. That's never happened before. That's never happened before. And one of the biggest things in all of politics for many, many decades is what's going on with this sleepy old party, the GOP, where we were losing, where structurally it was almost impossible to beat Hillary Clinton, which I'll do easily. And millions of people are voting, and millions of people are voting in the Republican Party. And you know where they're coming from? They're Democrats that are switching over, and they're independents. And this hasn't happened for years. And I will tell you, I will take 100% credit for it, because that's the story. They're coming over to vote for us. To vote for us. I'll take the credit with you, because they're coming over to be with us and to vote for us. The enthusiasm. One guy said today, he was actually a very good pundit, smart, and he was a Democrat. And they said, let me tell you, we don't know what's with this Trump guy, but we're concerned. We never saw anything like this. Millions of people are coming over. You look at what happened in South Carolina, where we had so many more people voting. So many more people are voting for the Republicans. What? Get him out of here. Get him out. Get him out. These people. He's a friend of Mitt Romney. people, millions and millions of people are coming out and they're voting Republican now instead of Democrat.